Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Yes. Okay,
One of
we move on.
Okay, no. Let's not move on. It's one of those films that does what it says. So essentially, this is closer in tone to the cheap thrills of strippers versus werewolves than it is to Shaun of the Dead. One of the great problems with Shaun of the Dead is that it's kind of spoilt us. When Shaun of the Dead first came out, I remember there were one or two dissenting voices, but generally people thought, God, this is really smart because this is a really intelligent film. First, it's made by Edgar Wright, who understands and loves zombie movies. Secondly, is really funny and understands how a joke works. And thirdly, is made from a place of affection, but isn't afraid to challenge the audience. So if you've seen Shaun of the Dead recently, there are a couple of scenes in Shaun of the Dead that are genuinely quite challenging and moving, which are to do with what happens when your loved ones become zombies. And actually, if you go back through the work of George Romero, this and actually even Cronenberg to some extent, if you count The Crazies as a zombie movie, which it isn't, but it sort of fits into that. It's what happens when it happens to your loved ones. And you have to have that kind of emotional, awe. Otherwise, the thing just becomes a bunch of noise. So in the case of this, we don't have that emotional awe. It's just a bunch of noise. 3 overgrown Boy Scouts, 2 of whom don't want to be Boy Scouts anymore, agree that what they have to do is go and have a camp out in the woods so that one of them can get a particular badge. Whilst they're camping out in the woods, there is an outbreak of zombiness. They then come back into town. Zombie outbreak happens. They then come back into town. There is a setup for it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, whether it's a medical experiment that goes wrong or something that the army, usually it's something that the army do in this, but yeah, fine. So anyway, zombie outbreak, everyone's turning into a zombie. The 3 scouts and the not stripper but cocktail waitress with whom they have teamed up come across a zombie, and some crazy stuff happens. You want to hear a clip?
I'm really looking forward to it already.
When encountering a hostile creature, be sure to assert yourself in order to keep the animal at bay.
That is a zombie, not a bear, dumbass.
Guys, I think he's mimicking me.
Augie, quit messing around.
Oh, baby, baby, how was I supposed to know that something wasn't right here? Oh, baby,
Augie, what are you
baby,
doing?
I shouldn't have let you go. And now you're out of sight, yeah. Show me how you want it to be.
What are you doing?
Tell me, baby, 'cause I need to know now. Oh, because my loneliness is killing me. And I must confess, I still believe.
Okay, did I just drop acid, or are they really singing Britney Spears with the zombie?
And the big problem with that thing, which in a way I think perfectly explains what's wrong with the film, is how long did that thing go on for before she got to do the punchline of, did I just drop acid, or are they really singing Britney Spears to a zombie? That's the kind of thing that should have been a throwaway gag that should have lasted 4 or 5 seconds. That's the kind of thing which, were Edgar Wright ever to do it, it would have been happening to the left-hand side of the screen and not made a big deal because it's not that good of a gag. There are other moments in it which are sort of pop music moments which remind you of the fantastic scene from Shaun of the Dead in which they're having to kill zombies by throwing his record collection at them, and they're having an argument about which records they can use. And Edgar Wright tells a brilliant story about how they were only allowed to use the covers of certain records and not the covers of other records, to do with which artist would sign off on it. And that story that Edgar Wright tells is funnier than Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. There's plentiful gore, but the problem with the gore is we have seen it all before. I mean, for example, the infamous sequence in Brain Dead, Dead Alive, the Peter Jackson movie with the Flymo, which...
Yes, I think it's the most amount of blood in any scene ever.
At the time that it was made, there was certainly a story that it had involved more gallons or litres of blood than anything else. Okay, fine. Well, there's a version of that scene that's done on a larger scale and I presume with a larger budget, and yet we know all that. There is some raucous, I'm trying to think of a way of describing this. There's some raucous sex that basically is a gag which is ripped off Reanimator, and anybody who's seen Reanimator will know that's where it comes from. And at no point is it scary. So it's not The Evil Dead. And the key thing about The Evil Dead is it's very gory and it's very raw and it's very funny, but it's also very scary. There's an awful lot of kind of very laddie humour. It's gropey teenagers being boring, gropey teenagers. So the thing... it's much more suited to a sort of 11:30 at home on the sofa with a curry and a six-pack where the audience is utterly putrefied and totally undemanding than being in a cinema. Plus, I'm sure everybody's noticed this. It's kind of missed the Halloween boat because Halloween kind of
It should have been out earlier.
Yeah. Anyway, not good.